And now it's time to go through all the papers. Rebecca Hudson from the News Movement and The Sun's Jack Elsom are with us to do that. Jack, you've got page 8 of The Telegraph.
Yeah, I mean, a weird subplot of this Israel-Gaza conflict has been the BBC's basically stubborn refusal to label Hamas as a terrorist organisation. Now, they have said that under their editorial guidelines, they don't like to take sides and say this is the reason why they're not doing it. However, yesterday what we saw after the horrific Brussels shootings was the BBC website calling it a terror attack almost straight off the bat. They've been accused of double standards. After this, lots of MPs getting very angry. The BBC insists it's a mistake. But a lot of critics can't help but feel, potentially, that actually they were so quick to call this shooting the terrorist attack that the slaughter spree by Hamas a couple of weeks ago should be designated as the same.
Couldn't have put it any better myself, Jack Elsom, and the people who watch and listen to this are livid about this subject, trust me.
Well, I think last night was just a genuine accident. I think we've all worked on breaking news stories where, you know, you're trying to file a copy, you're trying to get something up on a website.
Accident.
It was they immediately amended the headline. That's what the spokesperson from the BBC said. You know, I think that is just a symptom of working on a fast-breaking news story. And in regards to kind of the BBC adjudicating who is and isn't a terrorist organisation, that is not what we pay our licensee for.
What do you pay your licence fee for,
to
Rebecca
inform
Hudson?
me in an unbiased, totally non-partisan way about what's going on in the world, and kind of they are not responsible for, you know, designating who is or isn't a terrorist.
But I ask you this because it's really you have things. This really riles me up because I believe they work for us because we pay that fee. They are fence sitters, but they have an agenda. This is what I don't. Without any shadow of a doubt, this is my opinion, right? I almost feel like they do it. Help me out, because that's, I don't know, the thing to do. How is it that the Prime Minister of this country, the leader of the opposition, I salute Sir Keir Starmer, he was quicker out the blocks, by the way, than Rishi Sunak, the king, the future king, and every media outlet, but the bloody BBC has to be different. What I would say is we can argue about this from now till the end of time, but we at Talk and other news networks should celebrate, because the British people, I swear on my life, have had enough of the BBC disrespecting their views. They should listen to what the feeling in the country is. Hamas, you can be pro-Palestinian, pro-Israeli. Hamas is a terror group that burnt, killed and maimed babies. It is beyond me, the BBC's approach. I don't understand it.
And they have guests on their shows who would agree with you. They'd have that exact opinion aired on their
We're
network.
not going to agree on this, but that's it.
No, but they said their argument is that they've never done it with any group in the past.
Whereas I think what a lot of MPs are saying and critics is that there are inconsistencies. So if you look at the 9/11 attacks, if you look at the Bataclan attacks in France, they were immediately labelled as terror attacks.
Terror attacks, but not. They wouldn't have called the IRA a terrorist group. I think that's because they
Who
have
commits terror attacks?
Defund the BBC. Defund the BBC. Just saying it.
Okay,
Rebecca.
I'm going to move on.
Yours, Nick. Go on. This is brilliant. The Telegraph.
Politicians calling on Sadiq Khan to stop extremists from parading London's streets.
This isn't actually unrelated to what we were just talking about. So on Saturday, there was obviously the March for Palestine through central London, and the Palestine Solidarity Campaign erected a stand next to the cenotaph where speakers, including Jeremy Corbyn, obviously addressed the crowd. And there is
There's a surprise.
There is now a group of MPs who are calling on Sadiq Khan, Mayor of London, to legislate and ban people being able to protest and put these kind of stands up near the cenotaph. I mean, we're getting to a point now where, is there only certain types of protests or certain types of views that are legitimate?
Was it protest or hate?
I mean, they would argue it was a march in solidarity with the people of Palestine and Gaza. It wasn't a pro-Hamas march.
So Khan's saying he won't do it, but I suspect if all of those pro-Palestinians or Jeremy Corbyn went there in a car, he'd stop them from going to the cenotaph.
Only if it wasn't US compliant.
Only if they'd paid
Good point, though, isn't it?
If they'd paid their £12, they'd be fine.
Yeah.
But you know, this gets into a really uncomfortable position of what is legitimate protest, who is allowed to use public spaces, and just because, you know, people found the March for Palestine distasteful, I'm sure people equally would have found the pro-Israeli marches distasteful, depending on what side of this debate you fall on. And we can't legislate as to who gets to use public space, whether you like it or not.
It's a really tricky one, isn't it? Because obviously protests often congregate around Downing Street, OK, for obvious reasons. They want to make their voice known to the very heart of government. The issue here is that obviously we have the cenotaph right outside Downing Street. It's meant to remember Britain's war dead. And so to sort of almost hijack that memorial for other protests, people sometimes feel quite uncomfortable about it.
I'm just going to challenge... Of course I am. I'm going to challenge your use of the word hijack. You know, you're on live telly, we say words like that. But the cenotaph was to remember the people who died as a result of war. I would argue that if there were people there who, and by all means, the speakers, I'm not saying everybody in the crowd had good intentions. However, the speakers certainly were there to talk about and highlight the plight of innocent civilians. I think it's quite a fitting location to say, you know, as a result, look how many people...
A man who oversaw your party and was accused of anti-Semitism in terms of in the party. It's interesting.
He was one
part
speaker,
of a...
but there were other speakers there to say, when we say never again, we can't just say never again for these people. We have to say never again for all people.
I agree with that. Can we go a little bit light-hearted?
Yes. Go on, then.
You know, this is interesting. In the Mirror, page 13, badly behaved Brits may be blacklisted by the Balearics. Can I tell you something? Years ago, I did a show, and it was all about... oh, my God. This is old age.
I don't know. I wasn't there.
In the Yorker. What's the strip called? Help me out.
Benidorm?
No. What's the...
Palmer?
Magaluf. Thank you. Yeah. John knew. John, there you go. Do you know something? There are 4 Balearic Islands, and I was told when I was doing this show that the Magaluf Strip is 1.25 miles long. That accounts for 27% of the income for all 4 islands. That's how many people go. I just thought I'd add that before you do your story, because apparently Brits are a disgrace abroad.
Yeah, I mean, like, we have this reputation, don't we, often going over to very warm places, trashing the place up, getting incredibly drunk, being a bit rowdy. And the head of tourism at the Balearic Islands obviously includes party havens like Ibiza, has said, actually, we've had enough. And he is threatening to blacklist Brits who get out of control on these holidays and say, actually, you know what, if you're going to come over here and tear the place up, we don't want you. Now, it remains to be seen whether this is actually going to come into place. It might come up against EU law. But, you know, it's a talking point, isn't it? You know, should they blacklist people that actually cause a bit of offence?
Now, listen, as somebody who spends an awful lot of time in Magaluf, you don't want to be banned, do you, Rebecca Hudson? Come on!
No, I think I'm why they're suggesting bringing in this legislation. No, I'm with Jack. I think we have this horrible, embarrassing reputation overseas. And we're all kind of judged by, you know, some of the worst behaviour, and and they're not great tourists or ambassadors for our great country. So I'm kind of pro this. I don't think we need to go and embarrass ourselves overseas.
I think we should also ban T-shirts that have the sleeves cut off that men wear when they're on holiday.
Oh, wow.
Dreadful.
I'm wearing one right now.
I know you are. Is it a man's vest because you're pregnant?
Do you know what? I need to get one because it's barely covering my belly at the moment. How are they going to implement this? They're just going to ban people from getting on flights?
On-the-spot fines, isn't it? And then, stop. I guess then your passport is registered on a database, and that's it.
I think they're yet to flesh out the details, but it's the threat which is there at the moment, which I think is terrifying people.
So
Jack, let's go to the Sun, page 11. 1 in 5 Brits would prefer to eat McDonald's or KFC at a wedding reception.
Yeah! Shocking stuff, isn't it? Shocking stuff.
No, not really.
It actually makes me feel a bit depressed about the state of the nation, about how 1 in 5 people that you might know will actually have a fried chicken or a Big Mac at a wedding. You don't want to be putting on all your finery going to a wedding and then chowing down on a Whopper burger, do you?
Speak for yourself. I've got to say, for a lot of...
You're talking to 2 women who haven't been married, so I don't know why you're asking.
And you're talking to a pregnant woman. I want all the junk food I can get.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes wedding caterers can go a little bit stingy on the portion size. And when you're at a wedding, you've been drinking all day, you haven't had lunch.
So on my wedding, this is absolutely true. My father-in-law's... Which one? Yeah, the third one. And it was very glamorous and it was wonderful, and I thought it was amazing. And he said to me this morning, "My bloody food were cold." He doesn't even come from Yorkshire, but he said the problem is, you're right, you wait all day, and wedding breakfast at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it's probably cold. I sort of get it. But here's the thing: everybody has this meal, picks it, the size of it, goes dancing, and then they bring sliders round at midnight. We'll go, "That's nice, that's a burger, that's the best bit of food I've had all day."
Well, we were saying maybe it's something that you could do later in the evening, but I mean, I'm filled with horror that you could go to a wedding and then be presented with a big...
You represent Islington, everything that's good about the left wing, champagne socialism, and it's
liberal elite.
She said, "I'm appalled that anybody would do. I'm going to stick up for all those people who can only eat with meal vouchers at McDonald's, but I'm absolutely appalled. They only serve prosecco at that wedding at the weekend."
Champagne socialists. You want KFC communists?
Yeah. Rebecca, snoozing. This is relevant to Nick and I.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not great news for you guys, because apparently it's that there's this new research done in Sweden, that if you snooze your alarm for up to 30 minutes, you can actually be more alert and more awake during the day. Yeah, I know. So I thought kind of getting up when the alarm goes and just starting the day is the kind of recipe for a successful, alert, on-the-money day. But actually, no, apparently, if you have that extra 30 minutes, you don't interrupt your deep REM sleep, and actually you could have a more productive and focused day. So I don't know what that means for your alarm. I don't know what that means for your
I'm going to try that tomorrow morning.
I'll be doing this show to my own tomorrow morning because she won't get it. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us all morning, Rebecca and Jack.